Today we are going to be editing some images in Lightroom Mobile. I just took my bike for a ride down to the beach. I'm actually selling my motorcycle right now. So I snapped a few really quick shots down there and we are gonna edit them in Lightroom Mobile. I'm gonna show you how quick and simple it can be. So within Lightroom Mobile, you can do basic things and you can do advanced things. So learn the basics and then work your way up to the advanced stuff. Today we're gonna do some fairly basic edits, but I am gonna go into a few kind of cool, powerful things that Lightroom does, and hopefully this is helpful for you. And if this is helpful for you, hit that like button below. That's super helpful for me. I will continue making videos that I hope are helpful for you. And again, if you think it's helpful, then help me by hitting that like button. And also today's video is brought to you guys by Epidemic Sound. They are the leader in YouTube music licensing. If you guys are a content creator of any kind, you know how hard it can be to find good quality music for your creations and not get a copyright strike on YouTube or other platforms. Epidemic Sound is the leader in YouTube music licensing. The soundtrack for this channel, they have thousands and thousands of tracks to go through, all sorts of sound effects you can use as well. And you can get a free trial at the first link in the description. Go in there, get a free trial, test it out, dive into the full library from Epidemic Sound, download a bunch of songs, use them, post them online, all during your free trial. Again, it's free to do the trial. Okay, into Lightroom Mobile, and I have 3 images in here. I have a full shot of the bike, I have a rear tire shot, and then kind of a rear full shot, kind of an off-angle shot. We are gonna edit these 3 images. I'm gonna edit the first image, and then I'm gonna paste the settings to the other 2 images, and then we're gonna tweak those 2 so that make sure they all match. So all 3 images look similar or they look alike. And we're gonna do it pretty quick and easy. So down here at the bottom, selective and healing, we're gonna skip those for right now. They are not part of the free version of Lightroom. Crop will go in here and I can just kind of grab the bottom and turn it until that horizon is nice and level. Make sure your horizons are always level. Bring the crop in just a little bit, move the bike up in the frame so it's right on that 3rd line. That is looking good. Cropped. Profiles, we're gonna skip that as well right now. Auto, light, color, effects, detail. Those are kind of the 5 that we're gonna focus on today. Really, really simple stuff to work with. So the first one, auto, tap that, and Lightroom is gonna do a usually pretty decent job of just kind of doing a subtle edit using the light and the color modules. And if you want, you can tap auto and use that as kind of a starting point and then run your edit from there. I am gonna click undo at the top to undo those auto settings, slide over just a little bit more, and the first module we're gonna go into is light. And in here we have exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. And then all the way at the top there, I have curves. I have curves in my mobile editing app. So here's my RGB, red, green, and blue channels in there. I'm gonna put a very basic and subtle S curve on here. Beautiful, just like that. Really, really subtle. I might even bring up that black point just a touch. Let's bring up exposure just a little bit, and I'm just gonna kind of run through these real quick. So highlights, I'm gonna bring those way down because look at that sky, kind of blown out. If I bring it way down, all the way even, we get a little bit more sky back. I'm gonna pump the shadows a bit because the bike is in shadows a little bit there. That looks like a good spot. I'm gonna bring the whites down just a touch so they're not so punchy. And then let's really drag those blacks to get our contrast going. Bring the shadows up even a little bit more. Let's go all the way back up, and I'm gonna touch that exposure slider. I think that looks pretty dang good for our exposure. And anytime that you wanna see the before and after or see the before image, all you have to do is tap the screen, tap and hold, and that's my before, and that's my after. So this is the edits that I've done so far. It's already looking pretty dang good, and I haven't done that much. So we're gonna jump over to color. In color here, we have temperature slider, a tint, a vibrance, and saturation slider. At the top, there's black and white, grading, and mix. We're mainly gonna mess with the sliders, and then we might go into mix, but we're not gonna mess with grading today. It's a little bit more advanced, and black and white, we're not making black and white images. All right, so on our temperature, I am gonna bring up our temp just a little bit, just to make it look a little warmer, a little beachier. I wanna bring up the tint just a touch as well, just so it's not looking green at all. And then vibrance and saturation, I might kiss them both, but I'm not gonna do much with them, because again, you don't want you don't want that look. You don't want the crazy saturation. You want to be subtle with your edits. You want to just kind of add little bits here and there until all together it comes together to look really good. But you never want to go too crazy with any one slider. So this looks pretty good already. I am going to go into mix. And in mix, I have my HSL slider. So hue, saturation, and luminance, and I have all my colors that I can click on over here. Or what I like to use is the little bullseye bit. If I click on that bullseye, the colors drop down. I have hue, saturation, and luminance at the bottom. Now, all I'm gonna do is touch on the screen and change my hue, or touch on the screen and change my saturation by switching between these three at the bottom. But let's go hue first, and I'm gonna mess with the sky a little bit. So let's grab some of the blue from the sky. Let's grab this spot, and I'm gonna drag it down just a little bit so it goes a little more teal. So if I drag it down, way down, it's gonna go really teal, or way up, it's gonna kind of bring in some of that magenta-y vibe. So let's go down a little bit, somewhere in here. That looks pretty good. And then I'm gonna click over to saturation. I'm gonna add a bit of saturation to the sky, and click luminance, and I'm gonna drag the luminance way down on the sky. It's gonna give me kind of a more dramatic sky. Not going crazy with this thing, but it is making a big change. Let's swipe that down, touch and hold for our before, and there's our after. So we already have a very different image that we started with, and it's only been a few sliders. Really, really simple. So back in there in the mix, I think the reds look good. I am gonna pull some of the saturation out of the greens so they don't pop so much in the background. I might even slide them up here a little bit, and the yellows in the background. Same thing, I'm just gonna pull a little bit of the saturation out. It's gonna make the reds in the bike and the blues in the sky just pop a little bit more without the other colors distracting your eye. Jump over to effects, I'll add a touch of texture. This is where people can really get carried away. And it's easier to get carried away when you're doing something like a bike, because I think it looks cooler. When you're doing like someone's face, if you add clarity or texture to someone's face, you'll realize pretty quickly, oh, I've gone too far. But when it's something like a bike, people can get carried away, or like a landscape photo, people can get carried away very quick. Let's just drag the clarity slider all the way up. We see that online plenty. Plenty of people do that. Don't be those people. Texture is a little bit more of a subtle technique, so we'll use texture to 10. That's just giving us a little bit of that contrast in those little spots. We like that. Go down here, grain. I'm not gonna add any grain to this image. Jump over to detail and sharpening. Now, sharpening is a great, powerful tool to use. Again, there's a good way to use it. So here's the good way to use it. Let's bring up sharpening. Oh, not radius. Let's bring up sharpening somewhere around 60. Let's even get crazy. Let's get crazy. Let's go to 70. So now we're at 70. But what we're gonna use is this masking slider. So if I bring this masking slider up, I'm gonna hold, one thumb is gonna be touching the masking slider, the other thumb is gonna hold down the image, and I'm actually gonna get an overlay. So here's a masking overlay. As I slide to the left, the image goes white. As I slide to the right, the image slowly becomes less and less white, and the only pieces of white that are left when I let go, those are the parts that are gonna receive the sharpening. So you don't wanna sharpen the sky, you don't wanna sharpen large areas that don't need sharpening, you wanna sharpen edges. You only want things that are edges to actually be sharpened. So using that masking slider is a bit of a trick to sharpen an image without it looking oddly sharp. Because again, we're only sharpening the parts that should be sharp. Let's go down here. We're not gonna use any noise reduction on this. I don't think it's noisy. If we wanted to, we could add a little bit of noise reduction. We don't need it in this image. It looks great. All right, hop back over to effects. I think this is looking dang near done. Let's go ahead and unclick it and re-click it. There's our before, there's our after. It's looking good. And when you see the before and after, it does seem like we've done a lot, but if you only saw the after, I think it's subtle enough that you would go, that's a good edit, that's a good edit. All right, so to bring these settings over to the other two images, there's two ways I can do it. The three dots at the top right, we're gonna tap those. One thing I can do is say, save preset or create preset. Tap that, we'll call it Ducati, because that's cool, and done. Boom. And now we've actually added a preset. So I can swipe to my next image. I can go over here on the bottom to presets, and there is Ducati right there. So now I've added all the same settings from that image. I've saved them as a preset that I can use over and over and over again in the future, or I can export it and sell it for 10 bucks online like everyone else does. I don't have any presets yet. Maybe I'll do some, but I hope you guys know you can do everything that a preset does. You can do all that in Lightroom Mobile by yourself. All a preset is someone's pre-done settings. They've just moved all the sliders around and then they've saved that as a preset. So you can make your own presets. All right, so I'm going to go back and forth between these. I can tell this second image is a bit warmer, so to match them up, I'm going to bring the warmth down a bit on the second image. You can also tell that the sky took a ton of that. I'm going to bring the luminance back up on this sky because that just looks too fake. And it doesn't match our other sky at all. Pop back over to the light module. Let's bring it up a touch, bring up some of those shadows even a bit more right there. Bring that back down, swipe back and forth. It's really convenient that you can just kind of swipe back and forth and see a comparison. So you can see that the skies look fairly similar. This one does look it's got a little bit too much of that shadow brought up, I think. We're gonna have to let the shadows go down a bit more. Maybe I'll bring the highlights back up. Oh, there we go. It was the highlights. The highlights is what was making it look weird. So bring the shadows down, the highlights back up, and I think we are in business with this image looking really similar to the first image. So those two could kind of stand next to each other and look like, yeah, those two images look like they were edited together. And then the other way you can move settings from image to image, same thing, those top 3 dots, tap those, say copy settings this time, choose whichever settings you want. So you could say, I only want to change the color, or I only want to do the white balance from this image to the next image. I don't want anything else. And you could actually select that. In this case, we're going to do all the settings. So hit the check mark, swipe over, tap those 3 dots again, say paste settings, and boom, now these 3 look quite similar. This third image kinda went a little wonky on us. We're gonna bring the exposure down on it, bring this back up. If I can get this looking just like the other images. This one actually might need a bit of warmth also. Oh, this is looking good. So basically all I'm doing now is I'm just popping between the 3 images and doing little tiny tweaks to make it so that all 3 images look like they could go together in a set. So you never want to put one image out there with one edit and then the next image you go, huh, the white balance changed between these images, or something really drastically odd is different about these images. So when you put multiple images out there, you want to make them all look similar. And I think we have done it. So boom, that is 3 images edited very quickly in Lightroom Mobile. We're gonna export these, throw them on Instagram, and hopefully I'm gonna sell this motorcycle. I am gonna get another motorcycle in the future, not yet. I'm gonna focus on the van for right now, and then I'll buy a bike again. It's a sad day selling a motorcycle. I've had that motorcycle for 11 years, I think. I've had that bike, put a lot of miles on it, had a lot of fun, but it's time for someone else to have that fun. All right, I hope this helped you guys in Lightroom Mobile. I hope more than anything, it kind of demystified it and showed you it's a really usable app. It's really, really simple. You can do some really simple things in there. There are some much more advanced things you can do. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to see color mix. There's lots of stuff you can do in the mobile version. But again, just using some of the basic stuff, you can make your images look real, real good. Okay, I hope that helped you guys. If it did, hit the like button below. Go to the first link in the description. Head over to Epidemic Sound. That helps out a ton. Liking the video helps a ton. Yeah, thanks for being helpful. I hope this helped you as well. See you guys. For those of you that are wondering how I got that shot, that's just the bike at the very beginning of this video. I used the Insta360 X2, and then I used that C-Sucker mount with a RAM mount with the Insta360 selfie stick, and I legit had this huge pole suction cupped to my front headlight, and then this pole was just coming out the bike the whole time I was riding around. I got some looks, but I also got a really cool shot, so.